over to Jean, and I don't think Andrew is on just yet.
Andrew, he'll be here soon. I was just on a call with him, so
Okay.
he knows. Yeah.
So I'm going to hand over to you, Jean. Do you want to share your screen for anything?
Yeah, I'm going to share it now. Hi, everyone. I've just put in the chat bar there the link to Club Help as well. So if people want to look at these on their own computer, go ahead and do that as I'm talking as well. Okay. Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Yep, good. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well and had a nice long weekend or an extended break over Easter and school holidays. I think the last time I spoke to this group was back at the end of January or the beginning of Feb. And at that stage, I was just talking about the resources that we were getting ready for umpires and also the online modules. So happy to say they're both complete. And today I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on what that looks like, what the content is, where you can find it, how you can use it. So I've just, as I said, popped the link in there for Club Help. And when you go onto the Club Help page, you'll find a safeguarding tile. You click on that and you're going to get up all the safeguarding resources across the board for all the different cohorts. So that's kids, young people, coaches, umpires and officials. And then you will also have, for those of you who are involved more generally in footy clubs, there'll be other documents in there like club templates, checklists. There's even translated documents. So if you're in any kind of growth corridors, multicultural communities, there is documents there that are available as well in terms of the family suite of resources around child safety and wellbeing. So that's, you know, kids posters, young persons resources and families resources. But today we're going to talk about the umpires and officials. So once you click into this tile, this is what you're going to find. So these are all the resources that have been created for umpires and officials. And the content of these resources really come from our policy framework. So our child safeguarding policy, our code of conduct, and our reporting procedures. And the aim of these documents were really to kind of distill that down into short, sharp documents. Some of these are 2 pages, some are 3 pages. I think the max might be 4. And that really just captures the different themes that may be of interest to you. But obviously, if you want more information, you just go back into the safeguarding policy and code of conduct, and that will have more information around these topics. Some of these resources go across all of those cohorts in terms of the content, and one of those is around what abuse in footy looks like. And this really came about, as I've said before, because people have a different understanding of what abuse may mean. So we look at abuse in a really broad sense, and we look at it in terms of physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, grooming, emotional abuse, bullying. Most people think of abuse in terms of sexual abuse or physical abuse, but as I said before, what happens is abuse or harm is on a continuum. So it's all that stuff that happens in between a training on a weekly basis or at games, the kind of, I suppose, psychological abuse or trauma that might happen, emotional bullying, all that stuff is classified as child abuse in safeguarding terms. So we need to be aware of that as well. So this document is really good to go through what that might look like as well, because people may not understand, you know, a response in a child or a behavior that may indicate that there's something actually wrong or that they're trying to tell you something. So it'll give you some pointers there around what that might look like as well, and how they might actually disclose something to you, what they might be trying to tell you sometimes, and it'll give examples. On each of the documents, you'll find this box at the end which says, say something. So if you become aware of an incident or a concern or somebody tells you something, it's really important that you actually say something about that. And we've given people different options here around speaking directly with your supervisor or your manager or a coach, first and foremostly, to alert them to the situation, putting it to your association, or you can also just click on the QR code there that'll bring you into the AFL Integrity platform to make a report. You know, Andy's online now, and I know that Andy will back this up, but even if something occurs at club level or an association, it's really important when it involves child safety or the safety of a young person to actually make that report as well, because what we're trying to do at AFL is actually collect that information and that data and collate that data to see what the issues are out there and actually be able to target our training, our comms, our resources around those issues. So it's really important for us that we hear about what those issues are as well. Flicking back, the other one that I really wanted to mention was around that as well, as around raising safety concerns, what we actually have to do if a kid discloses. And I know that can be a frightening experience for some people, especially if you've had any trauma in your own background or vicarious trauma around this. So we've given you some pointers around responding in the moment. So 3 R's: to recognise, respond, and report. And I also wanted to flag for everybody that under the Crimes Act, there is mandatory reporting requirements of all adults, and that's around failure to disclose. That applies to all adults, and that's if you have reasonable belief that another person, an adult, has sexually offended against a child, you must report that, so child or young person. If you know something and you don't report it because you don't think it's your place to report it and that comes to light, you can be charged with a criminal offence. Also to know that there's failure to protect, and that applies to people in a position of authority. So you're talking about your managers and your CEOs, but that could also apply or be interpreted to apply to your coaches, your managers as well. So just to be really aware of those. So both of those are under the Crimes Act. Andy, if there's anything else there, you can chime in around that.
Yeah, look, thanks, Jean, and apologies for running late. Look, yeah, in terms of that reporting, and I'd also just, I suppose, make use of the portal. It just covers yourself and covers, I suppose, your club and everybody involved in making those reports there as well. Also, when you're talking to people as well, I suppose it's also important, particularly if there's some sort of allegation of a sexual nature or anything like that, also just to take some detailed notes as well. That is also important at times as well to record that, and that's obviously that'll come into play as being a first complaint if there is any further police action. But yeah, it's an important point to raise anyway when you're speaking to people, and just work with I suppose show some empathy and work with them there. So.
Thanks, Andy. The other thing I wanted to raise was around maintaining professional boundaries. So some of the incidents we're hearing about, just broadly across football and across umpiring, is around professional boundaries. And some of the things that are covered in professional boundaries are around giving gifts, the use, possession of alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, vaping, and also around photography and filming kids. So it's quite broad around that, but I think it's really important for those that are in a position of authority as managers, as coaches, as supervisors, to just understand what those boundaries are when you're working with children and young people. And that's covered off in these documents as well. Some of these resources as well have links to other agencies where you can get further information. So I would encourage you to have a look at those and to go through them. We know that photographs and videography is an issue because a lot of people may take videos on their phone or photographs on their phone, sometimes to help with training and coaching, sometimes, just at matches that they'll do that. But if they're on personal devices, they should be really, where you can, if there is a work device, to actually use work devices to take any videos or photos. Where that's not possible, make sure to give those over to your club, those photos, for the purpose that they're intended for, shortly after you take them, and dispose of them when you're finished with them. Because the last thing you want to do is 3 weeks later, they're found on your phone, or you're out and about, somebody takes your phone, finds those photographs and forwards them on to somebody else. It can happen quite easily, and it can happen just, not with any malice or bad intent. If somebody forwards them on, they might think it's just a joke. But if that happens, that's a serious breach in terms of our code of conduct, in terms of sharing information around kids and young people. So just to be really mindful of those things as well. At the end of each of these documents or resources, you will find the child safety email inbox address. So if you have any queries around the content of these documents, feel free to actually drop me an email at that email address, childsafety@afl.com.au. The other thing I'll mention is around the online module. So I'm not sure if some of you have completed that online module yet, but we have created an online module for umpiring, and the content of these resources will be included in that as well. So for those of you that don't have the time to read all of these right now, I think that coaching module is a really good one to actually go through. It's only 15 or 20 minutes to have a look at the information around safeguarding also. Andrew, that's all I have for today. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
Thanks, Jean. There's no questions in the chat. Does anyone have any questions for Jean or even Andrew? Andrew, is there anything you want to add from an integrity perspective?
Thanks, Andrew. Look, yeah, and I suppose just to further reiterate for what Jean's talking about, Jean and I obviously work fairly closely in investigating a lot of these matters. I really think it's for the umpire managers and that involved, the social media aspect, the direct messaging of adults to junior umpires. The conversations may start out on specifically umpiring related matters, but then sending other information. We're finding that is turning into an issue. And I suppose the sharing of images, inappropriate images between adults and children as well. So it's really something I think that really needs to be hammered home to the umpires to respect those boundaries as Jean mentioned there. So that's at this stage in terms of an integrity point of view, that's one of the more pertinent matters at the moment there. So.
Thanks, Andrew and Jean. If anyone's got any questions moving forward, I'll make sure I include that safeguarding email in my follow-up tomorrow with all the presentation documentation. So if you've got anything, you can reach out to Jean and Andrew directly. Jean, Andrew, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for that update again. I'm sure we'll hear from both of you at some other stage throughout the year as well.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Just one final kind of comment, and that's around the education webinar series. So our next webinar is next week on Tuesday night, and that's going to look at child safety from a club and committee perspective. And then in 2 weeks' time, we're going to look at game day personnel. So that'll include your coaches, your volunteers, your umpires, or your officials, what like safe behaviours and safe environments look like in relation to that. So I'd encourage everybody to attend those if you can.
Thanks very much, Jean. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Okay, moving on. So I'm now going to get Ando to come and sit in the hot seat. Sando to come and sit in the hot seat, and he's going to give everyone a national update.
Thanks, Talbot, and hello, everybody. I'll be fairly quick. I just had a couple of things, I guess, from a national point of view that we're working on behind the scenes. And thanks to everybody, first of all, with your patience with Officials HQ. I know not everybody's using the new platform, but for those that have jumped on board, there's obviously been some bugs and some glitches and some anxiety around changing to a new platform. But we're getting there. And so once again, it's going to be fantastic when it's up and operational to its full capacity. And for those that have jumped on and taken the time, I guess, to learn the new system, a big thank you. There's still, as I said, a couple of little bugs that we're sort of ironing out. And I know once the first pay run goes through successfully, there'll be a lot of people with a lot less anxiety. So, so well done on that. And thank you again. The next thing, or I guess what's taking up most of our attention at the moment is building and developing our learning management system online. So you would have seen as part of this year's registration was the introductory umpire module, which ran for about 30 minutes or 30 to 45 minutes, depending on where the umpire's experience was at that point. So that's up and on. We're going to link back to that in a second, but what we're working on at the moment from a national point of view is a development course as a way for our community umpires to gain accreditation for that sort of second, third, fourth, fifth year period. And that should be, and I don't want to put an exact date on it, but we're working on that. So probably give us another few weeks, maybe a month, and we'll have that up and online for our community umpires. Part of that will include an umpire competency checklist, which will still require an evaluation. So once an umpire coach has evaluated and ticked off all those competency items, then the umpire will then upload that onto the LMS and we can have their accreditation from there. So once again, I know with the Officials HQ, I said thanks for your patience. Thanks for your patience again with the development course, because that I know that's been promised for a long time and we're eventually getting there. After that, we'll move on to the advanced accreditation course, and then we're going to loop back to the intro course. So hopefully by this time next year, or for the start of the 2023 season, we'll have 3 modules all online, which can our umpires can get on and get accredited, and they'll all be the same. They'll all be pretty sleek and slick, fairly short, but will be user friendly. So a little bit of feedback from the intro course that it was a little bit long and the user experience was not that fun. So we'll try and work a little bit on that. So that's the LMS. And I guess the final thing that we're working on from a national point of view is we're still looking to recruit and retain as many umpires as we can at community level. And a big part of that is trying to include more girls, females into our system. So there's a lot of initiatives and programs working behind the scenes to ensure that we've got a 10-year, I'm not sure if this has been announced yet, Talbot, but we've got a 10-year plan to ensure that we have 40% of our community umpires will be female. So at the moment, that's about 10 or 12%. But we're going to try and include more females in our system and in our program. So part of that is the female mentoring program, which is currently being run by Lainey Glyphsis, which has been really successful. Over 100 girls currently involved in that program. You'll all be aware about the objective to ensure that our umpire change rooms are operating in a dual change room system. So that's something that we want to ensure that our environment is much more welcoming for female umpires. At the moment, as you know, a lot of our change rooms, either the male umpires go first and the female umpires wait, or vice versa. But there is, I think, with the stadium plans for from AFL right through to community level, that we make it more, or the environment a lot more inclusive. Talking about inclusion, the inclusive environment, a lot more education. So we're planning to present a lot more, I guess, presentations to our community clubs and associations around what an inclusive environment looks like. So we've still got a long way to go there. I know some leagues, some associations do it really well. It's a really inclusive environment, and there's still some associations and leagues that still need some more education around inclusion. And finally, we're looking for an opportunity to improve and increase the player to umpire pathway. So current players, former players, we've got some initiatives that will open up later in the year, which I think Talbot's going to talk about a little bit later, about some opportunities for females in particular to have a pathway through the community level. But that's I guess to be probably discussed at our next workshop. So that's pretty much it from me. Do you want me to field any questions, Talbot? Or
if there's any coming through, or if anyone wants to.
I know you must have run this, Talbot. Any questions for me? Hope everyone could hear me then. I was just rattling on. questions from you boys? We can grab you guys later anyway. Okay.
Nothing look like it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sando. Actually, I have a question. The coach accreditation, is that going to be flicked back on or updated?
Yeah. Yes. No, we need to get that flick back on. 100%.
Yeah. So so if you didn't hear that, so coach accreditation will be flicked back on the LMS. So for those who already had coaches complete those courses last year, so those courses will be turned back on through the LMS, which means for those coaches that have an official HQ account, they can generate their link on OHQ, access the LMS, and then access the coach accreditation courses. And for those coaches who are based in metro groups, for them to do their accreditation, they'll need to create their officials HQ account, which we've said a number of times is going to happen with accreditation this year. Then they can access the LMS link through OHQ and do their accreditation. Okay, moving on. Community umpiring round. So that's going to start next week. So I've got a few updates in terms of finalising umpires and activations across the next 2 weeks. So I'm just going to run through that for the next 10 to 15 minutes. So as we all know, so last year we had the umpire training visits from AFL umpires. We had the match day experience for community umpires where they would have a little meet and greet about an hour before the game at an AFL game, walk and lead the AFL panel out onto the field for their warm-up, and then umpire Auskick games at half-time. So that's going to be running again. And then we'll also have, hopefully, pending AFL appointments, some AFL umpires attend and umpire in junior games. And I think we're also working on trying to get a couple of AFL players as well to do the same thing in different regions. So this is probably a bit hard to see unless you've got a giant screen, but I'll flick this out after the session. So this is the allocation list of AFL umpires to each umpire training session over the next 2 weeks. One of my key focuses this year was to try and get AFL umpires to regional locations, which I've had quite a few put their hand up and willing to travel. So we've got umpires going to Ballarat, Bendigo, 2 locations in Gippsland, Shepparton, Wangaratta, Dandenong, Sunbury. I know technically they're metro, but so we've got AFL umpires going all over the state, also Geelong. Now, this list is based on where the AFL umpires are living, and then also which AFL umpires have opted to do some travel. So, you know, it may look a little bit thin in some areas and quite heavy in other areas, but that's just how the AFL umpires have responded from where they're living. So I'll flick this through to everyone. I have asked for one of the umpires at each location to actually contact the umpire manager or the key umpiring contact for that session ahead of next week, just to, I guess, find out some information about potential numbers, how this training structure works, you know, what equipment have they got access to, so that way they can help with organising some skill drills or activities that they can do with your umpires as well. Also, just want to note right at the bottom there, so there are COVID protocols still in place for AFL umpires. I know, you know, in the community they've been relaxed step by step over the last few months, but for AFL umpires and the players are also having the same protocols applied for community visits. There's no indoor engagements or activities. Everything must remain outdoors, so that includes any training or Q&A, whatnot. And please make sure that your umpires, coaching staff, etc., all stay socially distanced from AFL umpires. We are promoting that you promote and, you know, advertise and, you know, take photos and whatnot, but please make sure that all the AFL umpires are socially distancing themselves when you are taking those photos with groups or during training drills as well. Obviously, if there's been promotion and you're not following those protocols, then we potentially lose these sorts of engagements for the rest of this year. So please make sure you stick to those key points. Okay, next engagement. So there is 7 AFL matches scheduled in Victoria during rounds 8 and 9. So I've already contacted the umpiring groups that I have allocated to these games. Now, these are all umpiring groups who did not get the opportunity last year. So I'm sharing it around over 2 years. So for these umpiring groups, please make sure you get me your list of umpires with their email and their phone numbers to me by Monday, and I'll send out all the ticketing information, the Auskick information, and also any additional info around what's going to be happening pre-game. So the umpires will need to meet outside the ground, the stadium, a little bit earlier than normal. So there's going to be a meet and greet about 75 minutes pre-game, which hopefully will last 15 to 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, sorry. At 60 minutes before the game, the AFL umpires have their pre-match requirements that they need to go and fulfill. Every umpire will get 2 tickets entry, so one for them, one for a parent, guardian, friend, depending on how they're travelling. We'll organise to get them on the ground pre-game. One of them will be able to hold the ball up to activate the 10-minute warning siren, and then they'll obviously do the Auskick grid games during at half time. Grids is the amount of umpires that are needed. So six umpires at Marvel, 8 umpires at MCG. Unfortunately, the Melbourne St Kilda game, Melbourne are doing an alternative halftime activation. So they've only got 5 grids, which is why I've allocated AFL Gippsland, because there's 5 Gippsland groups down there. They'll be sending 1 representative per group for that day for their umpiring experience. And the last activation, so this last one, which is the community junior games. This is not confirmed by any means yet. We do need to wait for the AFL appointments to come out for round 8 next week, next Monday and Tuesday. But here's just a list of umpires who have put their hands up to say, if I'm available and I'm in Victoria on the Sunday, I'm happy to be appointed to a junior game in their local region. So there's the list. This will all be pending AFL appointments. If you do get the opportunity to have an AFL umpire be available for one of your junior games, we're strictly saying under 13s is the highest junior level to appoint them to. Please, nothing higher than that. They're under strict physical and load management guidelines to get them through week to week and take into account their additional training requirements each week. So under 13s at the highest. Obviously, if it's under 13s, we'd love to put them in with 2 junior umpires and they can do a little bit of 3 umpire practice. And for the lower age groups, under 10s and 11s, with 1 junior umpire just to help them out there. I'd recommend that you do supply them with your local uniform so they can be all branded up in your local logos, your local sponsors, etc. if you get that opportunity. And if you've got any media team within your leagues or regions, please do send them out if any of these details are confirmed. Pump it up as much as we can. We're continuing to let the AFL media team and personnel know about everything that's going on, so that way we can try and get as much exposure as we possibly can over the next couple of weeks to go along with everything else that's happening in community umpiring rounds. Are there any questions around the activations over the next couple of weeks?
What was the date again that they're coming, that you supply an umpire to that game? Is it the 15th, the round? Sorry, I missed that. Yep.
Sierra Juniors, Saturday the 14th of May.
Okay. No, with the having Andrew, one of the umpires, umpire your game.
So that'll be the Sunday of each weekend, depending on their appointments.
So okay, so we don't know the date.
That's
yet,
why
obviously.
there's no dates. We need to wait for their appointments first.
Yep.
Probably just the last thing before I move on. So I believe, like last year, there was a bit of a media kit that was sent out with imagery and messaging and whatnot to share with your leagues, regions, stakeholders, etc. I believe that's going to be confirmed and sent out tomorrow. I know we were sent a video this morning that we just checked off Hopefully there was just maybe a couple of minor changes of that. So hopefully that whole package of imagery, video, etc., and messaging will be sent out tomorrow for you to start pumping up for next week within your communities. Okay, I'll keep moving on. So the Talent Academy, pretty much most of the program is not done and dusted, but it's kind of come to fruition this year, which is brilliant. So we've had our skills session in February across the state, where we had 4 sessions. We've had one PD session online. We've got our second PD session for umpires on Monday night. What we've also had recently, we had the V-Line Cup 2 weeks ago in Shepparton, which was a fantastic week. This is just a photo of each of our umpires from our umpire panel of the carnival. So we've got Tom Jank, Oliver Pearce, Sam Ritchie, who are the field umpires. They're Tom Jank, AFL Barwon, Oliver Pearce from Ballarat, Sam Ritchie from Southern Football Netball League. Then our boundary umpires have got Oliver Pratt, Lachlan Smith, and Rylan Bell. So Oliver's from AFL Southeast, Lachlan from West Region, and Rylan is from South Gippsland. His brother was part of the academy last year, Harrison Bell, and was appointed to the NAB Girls Grand Final this year. So the Bell family have definitely got some umpiring in their genes. And then we had a goal umpire as part of that group, and that is Caitlin Irvine from AFL Barwon. All the feedback that's coming through is that the week was fantastic. The coaching, the development that was provided for the umpires was something that they all really wanted, and they're feeding and asking a lot of questions. And at the end of the carnival, we have asked them all if there's skills, tips and tricks that they learnt during the week to please apply them on match day to help their development. So hopefully if your coaches are seeing them do something that might be a little bit different, please ask them, follow up, or ask myself or any other coaches that attended, ask them why. And we're trying to encourage that some of the on-field practices from AFL and State League are followed through down to community. There's changes being made over the last couple of years that are not about running distance or, pushing umpires harder to make position, but more so running smarter, less workload to ensure that best decision-making position is attained at all times. What we've also done in the last week is announce the inaugural Academy Accelerator Squad. So I sent this round last week to everyone. AFL Victoria promoted it on Tuesday on their website and through their social media as well. So here's a full list. The link to the AFL Victoria article is there. So these umpires have started attending a training session at the State League. So the boundary umpires attended State League training on Tuesday. Field umpires are attending tonight. Goal umpires are attending next Thursday. And then they'll repeat that each month until July. So the month of July will be their last session. So they'll get 4 sessions in where they're attending State League training and coaching to help their development throughout the year. We don't have any confirmed other activities for them, but we will plan to try and get them attending some VFL and AFL games and do some coaching from a spectator point of view, again, just to help them further develop their skills and their knowledge moving forward. I have had a couple of emails from different umpires around the state who missed out on this squad, and it shows that they were really hoping that they could be involved and they wanted to be part of this opportunity. And asking for feedback, which I've been more than glad to give them. But what I've also stressed with everyone is that umpires not on this list are not excluded from any other opportunities, or they're not excluded from the V-Line Cup in September, which I think is probably the big goal for a lot of these community umpires. This weekend, there's another 9 umpires being used in State League matches, and of the 9, I think only 4 of them are part of the Accelerator Squad. So those opportunities are going to continue to be offered more broadly to academy umpires, not exclusively to the Accelerator Squad, but they will just get a couple little benefits by being in this program. Observations, so they're actually going to start this week for some regions. So in terms of VFL umpires being available to observe community umpires, they're going to start this week. Now, I need to thank, so Steve's sitting here with me from VAFA. I need to thank Steve, and then I think Marshy as well from Southern. I asked the two of them to try and organise some appointments to be shuffled around on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday morning. At the moment, it looks like it may be that late notice on a Tuesday once the VFL appointments are released. They're not being released until Tuesday afternoon. And once they're released, that's when the VFL umpires who are involved will know whether they can attend on a Saturday afternoon to watch any community football. So I will try and give everyone as much notice as possible if I can. Otherwise, most notice will be a Tuesday night. So I will just please ask with your academy umpires if you can just be a little bit flexible with where they're being appointed to week. Obviously, these are the kids that everyone's highlighted as, you know, the up and comers in your groups. So hopefully they will be able to just be put with anyone within your panels to be umpiring on any given Saturday. So they're going to start. Umpire communication now, unfortunately, I was hoping to try and use Officials HQ and the communication platform on there for Academy. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked how I thought it would work. So just for the remainder of this year, I've created team app groups for the Academy program and the Accelerator group. I've already communicated that to the umpires just for the remainder of this year. So if any umpire managers actually want to keep in touch and stay engaged with those comms, you're more than welcome to join those team app groups. Simply just, you need a team app account and then just search for those two group names that I've put up there, request to join, and you can definitely stay involved with any news that's coming out and make sure that your academy umpires are staying up to date as well. So any online PD sessions will be communicated through there. Any other announcements that are more broadly across the whole academy will be put through team app for just the remainder of this year. And the last update for the academy. So I've mentioned a couple of times over the last couple of months, coach education. Part of the feedback last year with the academy was, you know, wanting to have community coaches provide more feedback around your umpires. You're seeing them more often than what we are or the VFL umpires are, which I completely agree with. But at the same time, we need to make sure that those coaches that are watching are fully aware of the standards of what the expectations are when umpires do make that transition from community to state league. So for any coaches or groups who want to provide more feedback about their academy umpires, we are asking that those coaches you want to provide that feedback do attend some online sessions where they'll be taken through the state league expectations, the state league feedback system, so that way when they're watching community umpires on a weekend, or in particular academy umpires, they can provide the right feedback that's in line with the exact expectations that the state league has for them moving forward. So for those that have gotten back to me with a coach, I've already sent out a session time for field umpires for this Sunday night on so Sunday 1st of May. So I've got a group of field coaches ready to go for a session. If you haven't sent me through a field coach, please do it by close of business tomorrow so I can send them the invite and they can attend the online session on Sunday night. I'm only doing one session per discipline. So if there's no representative from your group in this one session for field, then the feedback that is provided is probably going to be taken a little bit more lightly than compared to feedback that we get from someone who is been upskilling themselves and trying to keep up to date with the state league expectations. So please make sure you send me a contact for your umpire club. What we'll also be doing is for those that do want to participate, we'll try and organise some additional extra upskilling sessions throughout the year, through the state league, through the AFL. Obviously, those experiences where coaches have missed out on the last couple of years. Pre-COVID, there used to be yearly AFL experiences for coaches who are willing to upskill themselves. And I really want to be encouraging those experiences to come back now that we are in a more normal environment. Are there any questions from the room or even online around any academy updates?
What time does it say that starts, Andrew?
On Sunday?
Yeah.
I believe it's 7 p.m. Billy, is it 7 p.m. on Sunday evening?
So the Yarra can
Right.
so the Yarra can have one person, even though we're not with
Well, if some of those umpires are doing Yarra junior games as well, then yes, you can.
Okay.
Okay. We'll keep moving on. We're almost done. We're pretty much on time to finish at 1 o'clock. So Sir Doug Nichols round. So I realise that we've got 2 weeks of community umpiring round, and then go straight into Sir Doug Nichols round. And there's 2 weeks of Sir Doug Nichols round at the AFL. I think I have shared this before, but I thought I'd just share it one last time. So these are the 2 winning designs from Warrawah College students that Josh James coordinated last year. So the design on the left, which was by a student named Kalinda. So she's based the design on everyone coming together as one and being proud of who we all are. Each symbol represents each individual coming together to form one tribe, and the background represents the shield and Dreamtime coming together. And then the second design that's been incorporated onto the match day shirt is on the right, and that's by a student named Kayana. So Kayana's design shows a representation of her grandfather, which is shown as the goanna, and the 3 spears represents her name in her own clan's language, which translates to Mupa. So those 2 designs were the winning designs based on a voting system by the AFL umpires themselves. So they voted on the designs and the stories and the meanings behind each of the designs the Warrawah students submitted. And then that has equated to this top being worn. You may have already seen it. It's got the AFLW logo on there. You may have already seen it in AFLW during their Indigenous round. So this is what the AFL umpires will be wearing during Sir Doug Nichols rounds 10 and 11 at the AFL. I normally get an influx of emails over the next couple of weeks about how do we buy these shirts. With the agreement that Project have, initially these shirts are not able to be reproduced or purchased by anyone outside of the AFL umpiring group. They are strictly for the AFL umpires only during the year that it is being used. So at this stage, there's no opportunity to procure any of this design for your own umpires or umpire rounds.
Someone's having trouble hearing. But you said rounds 8 and 9 in AFL, May 7 and 14.
Correct. That's community umpiring rounds.
Yep.
And then 10 and 11 is Sir Doug Nichols round. I haven't got a message or anything. So finally, we've finished really early, which is a positive. Normally, I'm running over in these workshops. General discussion or questions from anyone, either in the room or online, before we all log off. So the next workshop will be back to online. So that'll be Thursday, May 26th at 12 p.m. And I'll send the meeting invite and agenda a week or 2 out from that date. So if you want to put that in your calendars to lock that away. Good question. So the question was, is there an end of year conference? So that was coordinated by Ando last year. So I'll take that with Sando offline. We'll work out what we want to do. Do have a question coming in on the chat. Steve, you're happy to unmute yourself and just talk. So with community
I
umpiring,
thought you got sick of my voice, Andrew, so I thought I'd just type it out.
Haven't spoken to you in a while, Steve. So happy to hear you on the chat. Recruitment blitz. So I know with the media kit that's coming out. So all calls to action will be to go to umpire.afl, which is where people can register to be umpires. It goes into the customer service team, who then forward it on to umpire managers across the country. So
where's that blitz being done though? You said you're sending out media packages. Is anything being done through the AFL, through Channel 7, through something like that? That, you know, it's community umpiring around, you know, even a little ticker tape thing running along the bottom that says go to what you just said, so that people that might be considering it, so that we can, you know, maybe hit a bigger target than what every individual association can do it on their own.
Yeah, no, good points. Now I know what you're talking about. So we're actually doing our planning for that tomorrow morning. So I know last year what we did is the AFL, one of the people in the media team, I'm sure some of you will know Nadine, who's been an umpire herself. So what she did last year, and I'm sure she'll be doing this again, is wording up all the commentators for games across the 2 weeks. I know last year, within the first 10 minutes of every single AFL game during a community umpire round, the commentators mentioned and thanked umpires and called for more people to take up umpiring. So that'll be something that I'm sure Nadine will be pushing again. The media team are working on, promoting stories. Hopefully we can try and get some different people out to different regions to follow up on media and that sort of thing. So we're doing a whole lot of planning on all those sort of activations more broadly tomorrow morning for those 2 weeks for, I guess, the general public.
Yep. Trying to get some of those 6,000 umpires back.
Yep. Any other questions? No, if there's anything that comes up after the fact, please feel free to contact me, let me know. Otherwise, please use the umpire visits that you'll have over the next 2 weeks to your advantage. Pump it up, draw as much attention to it as you can. I said to the AFL umpires during the week when I went to their training, I said that that's the engagement that they bring just by themselves attending has huge benefits, where it potentially attracts some umpires who generally may not train as often or don't train at all and just want to be involved on weekends. But the opportunity to meet and interact with AFL umpires may potentially just bring more people to training, where you can engage with more people, and then obviously you sell that message and it just spreads the message out more broadly. So 2 weeks where we've got some great access to some great resources. Please use it. Please pump it up. Please promote as much as you can. And if there's any queries with anything that's happening, please just reach out over the next couple of weeks.
Will you send that out to us, will you, Andrew, about the dates and all that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll send it out after this session.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for your time. For those that jumped online from around the state, and even to the guys that came in into Marvel, thanks very much for taking the time out during your busy weeks. Now that footy's pretty much full bore ahead, so we'll chat all again soon. Thanks, everyone.